And we're back. Good on camera. I'm good. We're back on the Daddy Issues podcast. Today, Carlito's taking a much needed break, so I'm going to do a special interview with someone that has been near and dear to my family's heart and near and dear to our journey as a married couple and also as parents. I would like to welcome Dr. Cheryll Holmes to the podcast.
Thank you for having me. I feel honored to be in this, this space.
Yes. The reason why I asked Dr. Holmes to come, she's now part of our family, is to talk about journeys. Let me introduce her credentials, because she is Black girl magic personified. Dr. Cheryll Holmes of the Holmes Counseling and Coaching Service offers full family service dedicated to working with couples and individuals to build, mend, and restore relationships. She works through trauma and other life and mental health issues. She is a lifetime member of the Chi-Phi Honor Society of Psychology. Did I say it correctly?
Yes, that's good.
She's a published author of His Heart, Her Voice, and From Hello, I Do. She has articles entered in both the National Journals of Gerontology and Psychology. She's a member of the American Association of Marriage and Family Therapy. She's an international speaker and a member of the John Maxwell team of certified life coaches. She's focused on family, on all members of the family, and she has a great track record when dealing with couples who are going through a crisis. She's a doctor of psychology, doctor of theology, a family therapist, a psychologist, a neuropsychotherapist, a hypnotherapist, a life strategist, and a sex therapist. So, Dr. Holmes, how are you today?
I'm doing good. You did really well. Lots of people struggle with gerontology. I don't know why. You did.
Okay.
Perfect.
Okay.
A. You got an A.
I got an A. Okay, good. All right. As you know, I recently became a father in the last 2 years. It was planned, but it's something that I never experienced before. I have my experiences as a father. I have father figures, but I knew that going through couples therapy, I needed to heal certain things and go through certain things. And our journey of being a better husband. I wanted to be a better father, but I don't say issues, things I had to deal with. What would you say to people, men who are becoming fathers, getting through traumatic experiences and getting through any other experiences and becoming better fathers? How do we do that?
I think the first thing is to know yourself. Over the past, I want to say probably about 3 years, I've been asking people, who are you? And as crazy as it sounds, that's one of the most difficult questions to answer, because a lot of people say what they do. I'm a father, I'm a teacher, and whatever, but they don't know themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really very difficult to deal with other issues when you don't know who you are, because inviting someone into your life to be your wife, to be your child, and asking and expecting them to love you, if you don't know what that is, if you don't know what do I like, what does love mean to me as an individual? Because, for example, a marriage should be really strong and solid before a child comes. And I know a lot of people are thinking about the what is called the biological clock. The clock is ticking. So tick, 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 tick. And so they rush to get into that space, not understanding that marriage has to always be above parenting. It has to always be my wife and I, my husband and I first. So when that relationship is not solid because the man doesn't know himself, or in this case the man, because we're talking about fathers, because the system does not allow the man to identify his pain as easy as it does for the woman. Not to identify the pain. Men mask it. They'll play basketball. They'll do any other sports. But that talking piece, that crying piece, I've asked hundreds of men, when was the last time they cried?
Me, it was yesterday after this dirty diaper I had to change. It was bad. No, but yes. And what do they
Yeah.
say? Do they even?
No, some of them would cry, and this is was I found very interesting. They cried after the death of their mom, but not their
Mm,
dad.
okay, so my father died almost exactly a year ago. And this time last year. Initially, yes, I cried, and my father was a good father, right? I never spoke about it, but there's things that I thought were missing from him being a father because of what I saw other fathers having TV, and he didn't throw the ball with me and this and that. But then I went through a cycle of, that's my father. He did what he did, and he loved us. And but for me, I had to do it on the go, on the run, because my daughter's not old enough to understand granddad died, but I still have to be a father. So that's very interesting, because I know if my mother, when she does, it's a whole different ball game. But
Hmm.
my father, it was just like, that day, and then that
Yeah,
was it.
it's that man thing. It's
Yeah.
just it's that thing somewhere along the line, and research shows that it goes all the way back to
Mm,
slavery, where the man has to learn. He learned how to be emotionally detached because the massa came in and took the wife, had children. The man had to walk around his house seeing his wife pregnant with a child that he did not
mm,
impregnate her with.
mm,
So what does he do? How does
mm,
he deal with this?
mm.
Because it's not something the wife, it's not cheating. It's not like she's going out
Yeah.
and doing it.
Mm,
But he has to put his emotions somewhere so that, and then he learns not to be emotional, not to attach
mm,
any
mm,
great feeling
mm,
towards that. So he passes that on all through to hold it in, keep it in. And then we have big boys don't cry,
mm,
if you're a man, man up, and all those other things. But it's coming from a place where the system, the entire system, the police system, the medical system, the man is always put on the back burner when it comes to, when you think about domestic violence, women come to mind. When you think about a marriage broken up, and who gets the children? The woman gets the children, the
mm.
man has to move. And all of these emotional trauma that he goes through, there's not an outlet, because when he gets with his other guys, they're going to be like, you want to go shoot some pool, you want to go play ball. There's no holding and hugging, and that's something that the women have.
Mm.
So the man has been, they have been trained to not be emotional. And
Wow.
so the father daughter relationship as well. I know men in my practice who struggle to show the kind of emotion that the child needs. He has to quantify it. He would respond to a graduation or something like that. But that kind of, I want to say, it's a kind of stupid, silly, no reason kind of love
Mm.
is difficult for him.
How do we unlearn that, or learn something new on how to be emotional? Because you're right, man up. Yo, why are you crying? You a B. You get
Hmm.
called everything.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
How do we now teach our sons, even daughters, but teach ourselves too, to not man up? Like or
Yeah.
man up can mean, showing
Showing
emotion.
emotion.
Yeah.
I think there has to be a really intentional shift, not just from the men, but from the women, because the wives say it. The wives are shocked if the husband shows any kind of weakness. The phrase "if you were a man"
Mhm.
most of the time comes from a woman.
I hate that phrase.
It's the worst phrase
You a
ever.
real man.
A real
It's
man,
supposed to.
yes.
Like, how do you know what a real? I'm a man. You're not a man. Like.
Exactly. And that's what is supposed to happen, because men present themselves
Hmm.
as Superman and
Hmm.
not Clark Kent.
Hmm.
Clark
Oh,
Kent
that's
is,
good.
yeah, Clark Kent. But who does a woman fall in love with? She falls in love with,
Superman,
yeah,
right?
because that's who he presents himself. So men have to learn to be able to show up as Clark Kent and every now and then give a Superman,
Oh.
as opposed to the other way around, right? When a
Yeah.
man is presenting himself, he says, I did this, I do this. And that's a conversation in a man pool, is what you do, how you do it, the success pieces. If you go around the women, it's more, touchy feely, I feel.
Mm.
If you eavesdrop on those conversations, so the men, as they get together, they have to change that dynamic.
Mm-hmm.
When a brother is going through something, it's not, and I think they don't know what to say, but the hug of a man is totally different. The hug of a woman.
Mm-hmm.
He puts his arm there so that there's no connection
Mm-hmm.
in there. So all of those things is saying, I'm gonna be emotional to a point, but there's going to be a wall between you and I. So the man has a wall between, and this is generally speaking. You have the little outlayers,
Mm-hmm.
people who, but he's not honest with anybody in terms of his emotional needs, and sometimes not even to himself, because he has learned that that's needy, that's girlish, that's so when the man knows himself, he knows that femininity and masculinity is not gender specific, it is an energy. So when we're talking about the masculine energy, the woman can have that, which means she's performing in a place
Mm-hmm.
where she is more logical, everything, she's void of that emotional piece. So we need the woman to be more to be emotional, but we need the man to be emotional. We need him to understand that the woman's tears, that women manipulate the men with the tears, but understand that they both can cry.
We can both cry.
You could
It's
both
safe.
cry, and it's safe.
Okay, because that's you. You've got like 20 something years of just learning. Man up, be this, do that, and you get with a woman. It's like, and then you're vulnerable with the wrong woman, and she makes fun of you, or she says something, and
Yeah.
it's like, and now you're like, I cut her off. And then I was gonna ask you about the cultural piece. I'm Nigerian.
Hmm.
Black men. How do we get through the, again, cultural, this is what is taught a man? My father, he actually was more of a crier than I've seen most men, most Nigerian men, but it's taught to, like, you just, even from my mother, like, get her, like, you got to just go through like, don't cry, culturally. How do we get through that from the African American culture, African, whatever it is? How do we see through that?
We've got, and I know this is a difficult task. We've got to undo the craziness that was done, because the concept of a man, like, you think about a man needs to know how to change a tire. A man needs to know how to build a house. A man needs to, where are those things coming from? Where's the manual that says that this is what determines who is the male, female? So when the man is fighting against the thing that he's creating at the same time. So he's creating and substantiating and validating this male role of, this is how a man should be. The man up and all of that is who am I? Because for Ola is not going to be like another man. So whatever that template is, it doesn't mean that you have to follow it. Like, all that, my nephew is 6'6". He doesn't like basketball. Not at all.
They
But
probably got at him for being
exactly, because so that's the culture. There's a belief system, and I really, I love his stance on it. I don't care. I just don't like it, and we need to have some more. I don't care. I am not going to follow the status quo because you want me to follow it. Everybody has an expectation, but when you know yourself, you say, I'm doing this because I like it, not because the system says that I need to follow.
Wow, because I'm not even 6'6", but the height I am, and growing up, you got to play basketball, you got to do this, and you got to follow this line. And I sometimes joke with people when they say, see me, a black guy, white guy, come up, hey, you play ball? No, I'm an engineer.
Yeah, yes, yeah. And because that's what, when people are looking, and this has happened to me as a psychologist, I go into rooms, I'm the only black person, right? I'm the only black person. And then they look at you and all of that. And I have learned not to talk. Let my actions, all the things that you read on my bio are things that I did because I wanted to do it.
Yeah.
I wanted to do it. And it was considered, even in the black community, they consider it the white girl stuff. Being smart, being an engineer.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. And you try to break the stigma of whatever it is, which means, in my head, I was talking with Carlito about being a father and unlearning some of the things from punishment, the way we were,
Yes.
reared,
Yes.
to finances. My mom and dad really didn't talk to me about money. They talked, but it was more of a talking to, not a back and forth. And
Right.
now I had to learn a lot of things on my own with finances and things like that, because it was like, you don't ask those questions to mom,
Mm-hmm.
or dad. Work-life balance we talked about, and just being a role as a father. We are learning on the go. Even though I had a father there and
Yeah.
brothers, I'm learning every day from my baby. So I wanted to talk about that too a little bit, like how do I first, the stigma of therapy as men, because men always talk. Many people have reached out to us like, yo, I can't believe you guys are talking about that. And for me, I say I'm not an expert. I'm just talking about my experience. But I think they have this thing about reaching out for therapy. So can you talk about the
Yeah.
stigma?
It's again, we're fighting, and I think you guys are doing a really great job
Mm,
because now I don't think it's I think the people who have a harder time would be, I guess, over 30, over
mm,
40,
mm,
where the whole idea of and for a man is asking for help. Now I'm not a man. I the first book I wrote, I interviewed over 800 men, and I do something called Man Cave
mm.
Conversations where I talk to men. But I never understood when all the men shared with me asking for directions was tough.
Tough.
Like
It's
so
tough. I would be in the middle of Kansas, or nowhere. I don't know where I'm going. And especially around a woman, I'm not asking for directions. Oh, now Google Maps has helped a lot. But let's say back 10, 15 years before MapQuest, I'm not asking. And it's the pride in
it's the
me. I will drive the
pride.
wrong way until I know where I'm
Yeah.
going.
And a lot of the arguments between husband and wife happen because of direction.
Yeah.
She's saying, I think we should go. No, we're not going right. And he would drive and realize that he should have gone right.
Yeah. Yep. And I'm not going to admit that I was
Nope,
wrong.
nope,
Yeah.
nope, nope. So, but you think about those things, and I think now, based on some of the podcasts and some of the things that people are being exposed to, they're not as defiant as
Mhm,
before.
mhm,
So
mhm.
it's more, hey, being wrong is a man does not have to be right all the time. And so when a man and a father and a husband realize that they have to make their own path, and in that path, sometimes you're right and sometimes you're wrong. An apology does not mean, first of all, it doesn't mean that you're wrong. Apology,
Let's see. Talk about it,
okay,
please.
the apology is an acknowledgement of how the person is feeling.
Okay.
So I can say to you, you and I can have a disagreement about something, and then I realize how it impacts you, and I can say, I am sorry what I said affected you the way that it did. That was not my intention.
Mhm,
But if you break that up, you would see I'm not saying now if I'm wrong, I am wrong. I'll
mhm,
say sorry for,
mhm,
whatever,
mhm,
doing whatever.
mhm.
But there's sometimes the apology is acknowledging, is empathizing and saying, wow, this response based on how I talk, I was loud, I used nasty words and all of that. So I am apologizing for the impact that it has. At the end of the day, baby,
Yeah.
we had we had to go left.
Yeah.
So the back and forth, when we understand that, and I think with you and Carlito doing what you're doing, what the impact it's having is that people realize that they don't have to go the old way.
Yeah.
Man does not Being a man does not mean that you have to play basketball. Being black man doesn't mean
Mhm,
black basketball that
mhm,
you get your money from that source. There's
mhm,
some really
mhm.
intelligent, and still in the black community people are surprised that someone is not in prison, on
Mhm,
drugs,
mhm.
and they're academically,
Yeah.
at that level. So I
Yeah.
think it's a retraining, and what you're doing is you guys are doing is retraining, and sometimes the pushback is hard. You don't see the impact,
Yeah.
but it's happening.
Yeah. And I guess the impact, like I say, when I work in education, will come later. You don't see it immediately. And that's
Hmm.
the other thing. We don't have a history of having generational wealth per se as other communities. So instant gratification on our part is like a
Yeah,
big thing
yeah.
because we want to see. But with children, I might not see my impact until 20, 30 years later.
Hmm.
So with my daughter, I was telling them, the guys yesterday about, I'm I'm teaching her. I'm talking to her. She is not paying attention when I'm teaching her her books, and they're like, she's two, man. Like, what
Yeah, she is too.
she's 2 years
And that
old.
too is a concept because there has to be an understanding with the fatherhood now that the children are going to take a different path.
Mm-hmm.
Because now, when for me, academics was the place to make money.
Yeah.
Right? Once my parents realized that I smart, I was the only person who went to college and everything else. They're thinking lawyer, doctor, those kinds of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But now, an influencer can make more money in 1 week than those.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hmm. But
Yeah.
it's really tough when we're afraid to allow the children to find their path. And one of the things with fatherhood, when I'm doing parenting classes, I'm saying to parents, expose your child to
Everything.
everything.
Mm-hmm.
Expose your child to the medical field. Expose them to engineering and everything else, and they will make a choice because the school system is going to change. It has to
It has to.
change
Yep.
to be able to accommodate
Yep.
what's going on now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because people are asking, 10, 11-year olds, it's like, what am I going to be doing with this
Mm-hmm.
algebra? I don't want to do this. I don't want to do science. And schools now, colleges are focusing only on the major
Mm-hmm.
that you're doing.
Yeah, and it's more vocational. It's more
Vocational,
yeah.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
more. It's not the whole you taking this, and they have to because kids, even as a teacher, I see they singularly focus mostly influencers things because that's what they see every day. And like growing up for us, it was basketball players and
yeah,
athletes and celebrities. So everybody wanted to do that. Now, yes, people are seeing they don't have to do that to be rich, but they can be academic. They can
yeah,
be so.
yeah.
But as parents, because we didn't grow up like that, how do we? It's like, but
It's exposing, understanding that. So there's one time I was teaching GED, and there was one person in the class, he didn't want it.
mm,
He wanted to be a rap artist or something like that. And I began to tell him he had needed math to count his money. He needed English to understand the contract.
mm,
So our method of trying to get them into that space has to be different. Like back in the day, go in your books. They will go in the books, but they're not learning anything.
yeah.
So it's really different. And I think now the education has to not just be with the children, but with the parents, traveling, putting the money together. The other cultures, even if they have to take a road trip
Mm,
every year, they're going to go to museums. You don't see the us
yes,
going to those places.
yeah.
They'll go to SeaWorld, they'll learn to swim and all those kind of stuff. But for us, we're complaining, but we're not doing anything. And we're thinking it's money, but it's not money, it's a
Mm-hmm.
mindset.
It's a mindset. Yeah,
Hmm.
I think changing the mindset is what I'm trying to do every day. I think should we? I mean, we probably should take some elements from how we grew up, also, though, right? We don't.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I grew up in Trinidad and Tobago, and I thank God for it because
Mm.
there's some things that you learn. There's some things that I understand. I wasn't one to get beating. I learned from my
Your
brothers.
brothers.
Yeah, if they got into trouble for
Yeah.
something,
Yeah.
I was not getting into trouble.
Okay. Okay.
But now you still have to be able to, like you talked about discipline. Discipline has to be different now, but
Mm.
it's still absolutely needed because you're going to have. I met someone last week, a young man who was in a gang, and he said he went into the gang because he was looking for love,
Mm.
and the kind of affirmation and stuff that he gets when he does something, he doesn't get it anywhere else. So
Mm.
that's something from in our past as we're growing up. People celebrated the little things. People, the boy, especially with his mom, he would come home and on the paper he would scribble scrabble some things, and that was his painting, and he came and he brought it to mom,
Mm.
and mom made a big deal about it. Oh my God, look how beautiful this is. And she put it up on the refrigerator, and tell grandma, look what Ola did today.
Mhm.
So he's walking around feeling proud about that. And then he gets his first girlfriend, and he gives her a card that's, he probably drew a little something, and she's like, what's this?
Whew.
So he now begins to learn. He learns to be emotionally detached by the rejection that he gets over time.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
for the man, in his growing up, for most, a lot of men, some men, they grow up and they've been affirmed. He's on the track team, coming last all the time, but who's
Mm,
there saying,
yeah,
"Yay,
yeah.
way to go"?
Mm,
Mom is there.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So understanding how powerful that is, and that was, to be able to take some of those things,
Mm,
and in the midst of our children not doing exactly what they should do, still letting them know that this is a safe place. And when the father does it, if you think about parenting, the father is always wait till the father gets home because he's the disciplinarian. But when the father can mix that up with the affirmation and saying, "Hey, you did a great job. This, you got a B plus. Let's together high five. Let's go get some ice cream and all of that,
mm-hmm.
and then let's work towards the A, as opposed to the criticism, because the alpha man
Mm-hmm.
is expected to be hard and harsh, and
Mm-hmm.
but if he can tap into his feminine energy.
Mm-hmm. Especially with a daughter. We were talking about that yesterday. We were blessed with daughters first. And I don't know why, but we have to, and we have to not say deal with it, but we have to kind of, I guess, learn how to be feminine, our feminine side, like you said.
The feminine energy. So
Yeah,
it's not. I know this is a tough time to say you have
yeah,
feminine
yeah,
energy,
yeah.
but then we're talking about the emotional piece, just
Okay.
being able to be emotional, to and men, I think a daughter can pull that out
Oh,
of.
she has.
Yeah, but the struggle is with the son. The
Mm,
son does not get the level of empathy. He falls down and just like, "You'll be okay, you'll be all right."
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and yeah, I don't know. I'll just try to learn. Like I said, I learn from her every day, and even from my wife. The women we're around, I would say they have to make it okay to be able to, like you said, cry and have a safe space and be don't always have that man energy. We know, like, it's okay because we have a lot of trauma, a lot of it. It could be from whatever. It could be from whatever, because I know I have my trauma. So she's made it very safe for me to talk about those things, and not me being made fun of, not throwing it in my face in an argument. Oh
Right.
man, that was a big thing in
Yeah.
previous relationships.
But
You know,
how is it with men? Is there a man
yeah.
that you can,
With Lito, Carlito, and my
uh-huh.
guy group, we make jokes. We do. But when we're really serious about conversations, we don't lie to each other. And
That's good.
yeah, there's no lies being told. There's no attaboys or yeah, son, or no matter what we say, they're like cheerleaders and yes men. No, I'm gonna tell you the truth. We kind of ease up a little when each other are wrong. We don't, there's no attaboys there like playing in sports. We high fiving, like, but we're telling each other the truth in a way where it's safe to be like, "Yeah, I don't think you should have did that, or
That's good.
yeah, you could do it this way, like
Mhm.
you got to think about that one, and it's really worked, and that's where these conversations started with being a father, like. I don't know if you should do that, or this might work better, or nothing where we regret talking to each other and some, and that's how our group has done, and we're still learning because I don't know if you know Lito's story, but he lost his father tragically at 12. I mean, at 5 years old, his mother at 12, and he's learned how to become a father just through different father figures and
Mhm.
influences and things. He said, learn from my brothers who older than me, things of that nature, and his daughter's 9 now. So can you talk about being a father, but also at the same time having to play for some people husband, or in a relationship, or even single dads, divorced dads, widow dads, and going to work? How do we handle all of that as men, and how do
Mhm.
we do that?
It's really, really tough. It's hard for the single mom. I think it's
Mm,
harder for the single dad because there's so much, especially the dad has a girl. I can think about two guys right now who brought up their daughter, they learn to braid here. Again, it's making a decision. I'm not looking on TV for this. I'm not looking in magazines for this. What's needed in my home?
Mm-hmm.
What's needed right here? My daughter's hair needs to be braided. I can scream. I can run around. At the end of the day, it needs to be braided.
Yeah.
So you either go on YouTube, you find a way, you put it up on one or something. But fathers, what I saw them do is allow the situation and then the relationship with their child to dictate the learning pace, and they did what was necessary to be a father, making the distinction between dads, and fatherhood is a process. You can be the dad, the person who contributed to the DNA of the child, and the father is that person. There is no manual anywhere. And there's even Carlito and you both can have children around the same age, but your child determines what you need.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not you. All the wisdom, you could come with all the wisdom in the world, all the degrees in the world, but your child is going to tell you when they're teething, you can't come by and come. What did you do? You bring what you got there, and your child's just like, I'm not doing that.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
they're so small. There's no, you just gotta do. They really can. They gotta run you. They run you.
They
or,
run.
Yeah,
That's exact. And
yeah.
understanding that you're not looking at what's a woman's thing, a man thing. The woman is not there. The child needs this information, or the child needs this. Then one of them, and I know this may sound like really crazy. I saw these two dads when their daughters had their period for the first time. It was funny because the way that they just like panicked with it, like, oh my god, and boys and pregnant and what's a pad, how do you do, and all of those things. Nobody said to them, this is going to happen around, depending on the age of the child, because now it can be at 10, where you have to be able to have that conversation with the child and you have to prep the child. But I saw these fathers go in and ask questions. They had nurses around them, the family, they tapped into the village in terms of they did not want their mother or any other woman to come in and handle that situation. They wanted you to give them the information so that they could work with the child. But they did, I mean, you hear them talk, things that would normally cause men to be like, they dealt with it because this is what the child that they loved needed from them. While other people would be squirmish and all that other stuff. I see your silence.
No, I like I said, being an educator, you see certain things, but dealing with your own is gonna be, because you got so many things in your head. But I have thought about it. I even thought about being a grandfather one day, like like seeing how my mom does and how her parents do. It goes, at least it was going through my head, and say, hey, well, maybe one day I'm lucky enough or whatever. But so many things go through my head, so I just have to deal with it.
And it's the fear is not, and a lot of the times the father does not want his daughter to meet a man like him.
Yeah, we talked about that too. Like, remember when we were 13 and 14, the things that we were, but I do want her to meet somebody, I have to toot my own horn a little bit, who, wakes up and knows the challenges ahead of him and handles it.
The
and
mature
the mature, definitely the mature me. Not the pre-30 me, I guess. But the mature me. Yeah, I would love her to see that example and every day. So, and I've learned not to lie to children, right? Yeah. Tell them the truth. Maybe, put a filter on. Yeah. If I went through this with your mom, we went through this, we went through that. Talk to them at the appropriate age about it. Talk to them about finances. Talk to them about health, mental health. Don't lie, though, and put up this big old persona like we do when we first start dating a woman sometimes. Yeah. Just talk to your child, because they will know.
Yeah, the parenting, the one thing that would be helpful in parenting is understanding the child dictates the next stage of transition. If you think about it, right now with your daughter, or when she was younger, you dictated everything. Where she walked, where she goes, and everything. You're going to find that changes. And it's not changing because you wanted to change. she commands or demands
Mm-hmm.
a shift.
Mm-hmm.
So when the whole idea of maturity, she's going to tell you, not you tell her.
Mm-hmm.
And that becomes a really tough thing that I see parents, they don't understand the transition. There's a place of dictating, there's a place of advising, and there's a place of consulting that it comes with parenting. Right now, dictating, she eats what you want her to eat,
Mm-hmm.
more or
Mostly,
less.
yeah. Sometimes, most of the time,
Yeah.
applesauce, applesauce. I want applesauce.
Yeah, and then and then the teenage years, you're gonna be advising. You can't say, I need you to wear this.
Mm-hmm.
I
Just
remember
stuff like that.
spending close to $1,000 on clothes for my sons, and because I was like, oh, they like this. They like it for
Mm-hmm.
3 weeks,
Ooh.
and then they were not wearing it anymore. So now you realize that gifts are gonna change. Gifts are gonna be money instead of
Mm-hmm.
all of the other little things.
Mm-hmm.
But the child, when a parent is okay with the child saying, and I'm not talking about being reckless, the child saying, this is what I need. You know, Mom, can I go to the mall? But you're thinking, going to the mall?
Yeah.
Boys are at the mall?
Yeah.
Okay.
You thinking
Right.
macro? You thinking the whole thing? They only laser focus and tunnel vision on, And I go back to when I was a young man. There's things I got away with. I could lie to my mom and say, "Hey, you know what? I'm going here. No, I'm gonna do this." But now that I grow up and I say, "Man, if this would have went different or that, what would have happened?" I grew up, kind of like being scared of my mom because I was scared of her, and I would change this with my daughter, her reaction. First, it was you get beaten or you get screamed at or something like that. I wanted to become the father where I don't want her scared of me. I want her to be able to open up. I didn't open up to mom. Definitely didn't to dad. He wasn't that, talkative like that with in terms of opening up. But I open up to my brothers because I didn't get in trouble from them. So I don't know if you have anything to say about that, about
Yeah.
opening up to your, like, not having your child scared of you, because I was scared of her reaction. I'm still kind of scared of her reactions, but I'm not gonna get
Yeah,
in trouble now.
yeah, it's a really interesting place because I don't know if you're ready for your child to be 100% honest
Honest.
about everything. We say it, and like my nephews, every Thanksgiving Eve, the tradition was that they come to the house, and it's five of them, including my sons, and they can say whatever they want.
Mm.
When they were younger, it was good. By the time, and the parents, the rule was I didn't tell their parents. So they came around the table and they were talking about how to get to move the hickey on your neck so your parents don't know, their first sexual experiences and all of that. Until I started saying, you know what, let's not have those. So
Oh
we
wow.
say that we want to have that that openness,
Mm.
but if we have that openness, you have to be ready to say, I'm not going to judge it, or I'm not going to try to say, oh, like your God forbid, your daughter is 10 and she comes home and like, I kissed a boy at school. To get that conversation, to keep her open,
Mm.
you're gonna have to say, hey, really, why? As opposed to what in the world?
Yeah, yeah.
So they test you. Your children test you. So and you need a little bit of respect,
Mm-hmm.
and I want to say fear. I'm hesitating with that word, but not the kind of fear that would make you lie and do other things, but just that comes with the respect. That place where there's an honor that you give to your parents. Because I've seen people try to be their children's friend.
It don't work.
It doesn't.
Mhm.
It
Mhm.
doesn't. Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't work. But I've seen that being an educator. You see the difference in the ones who are more friends and the one who's more, most of the time. Sometimes it works, but it's very rare. Um, and one of the final things is trauma. Like again, I think we touched on it, but I just want to really have a section
Hmm.
that talks about trauma, um, of a lot of men I know, black men. They didn't grow up with their dads. They've seen violence, domestic violence. they've gone through it themselves. They've seen, and this is not a stereotype. This is actually people I know. My friend was here in another episode, and he talked about his sister got murdered, and he had to take on his niece and nephew at a young age. He didn't even have children yet. So how do we? I know it's not one size fits all answer, but what are the steps we can take to get past any kind of trauma and become better fathers?
Yeah, the first thing would be to find a therapist or someone to talk to.
Therapy's okay, guys.
Therapy is really okay because there's something that happens, the way that our body, our anatomy, our mind works when we're able to talk it through. I have therapy sessions where for an hour, the people talk for probably about 50 minutes.
Wow.
And I get a
You said
chance in
50?
50.
Wow.
I get 10 minutes. Even setting up a session with a therapist is therapeutic because the mind begins to relax like, okay, yeah, I am going to have an outlet. So finding someone, the difference between the therapist and the friend feels that they have to give you advice. Like as you're venting, they don't understand. You just need to get it off your chest. If you share it with me, I need to fix it. In therapy, that's not what we're thinking. We're listening to where you at, how you got there, and what you want to do. And a lot of times, like if it's the death, being able to talk about it, like taking on those kids are hard. Sometimes I look at them and I'm resentful. Having a place to be able to say that. Now you say that to your friend, and they're like, hold up, they're just small. How could you do that? That's something that even in terms of jealousy that happens when a young child comes, because a young child comes and is on the wife's breast, what was all his is now shared. And a lot of men feel that sense of resentment followed by guilt. So if you find a place that you're able to say, sometimes I'm mad at my sister because she died. I'm mad at this. Sometimes I'm wondering, I don't even have children. You get a place to be able to share without judgment. And that, just the nature of that, that's why writing is good, because writing, you only hear your voice. And that's what happens if you have a good therapist that allows you to talk. It's just your voice. No one is trying to interject and say, hold up, what did you mean by blah, blah, blah? You get a chance to be able to put it all out. Tears come as well as you think about it. But if you're able to get the process out, healing cannot come before you get an opportunity to share it. If you do not look at the sore, clean it up, and then put the Band-Aid, then if you put the Band-Aid on it, all you're doing is delaying the infection. And that's what a lot of men do. They feel that, okay, I did this. They become promiscuous. They start spending a whole lot. They start doing things that, because this feeling is coming up and they're trying to suppress it. And the way to suppress is to try to get accolades. And that's what the man is looking for, whether he's playing basketball or whether he's going with a woman. He just needs to hear that he's good, that he's okay, that somebody wants him. So every man, all of us, but specifically for the fathers, finding therapy. Trauma is something that is happening. It's something that's lodged in your head. It's a memory that's lodged in your head. It's like a filing cabinet. And what happens is that file is still open and you keep putting more and more. So if your mom abandoned you and you have a girl who abandoned you, you're not putting that in that same file. And you have to think, sooner or later, you're going to say, nobody's ever going to do this to me again. And you change your personality. This loving, amazing person now becomes someone who would use people because you have this undealt with trauma that's going on.
Wow, that's deep. The promiscuity thing amongst us is very that's a whole nother conversation. I'm not gonna, I was just
but it's something,
it becomes
but it's something that we need to realize that is part of a symptom. It's not, and I know women listening to this will be like crazy, I want to say probably 80% of the time, it is a symptom of something going on and not a character flaw.
Mm.
You find a man or a woman who is extremely promiscuous, something they're trying to hide or suppress something, some trauma in their own life, unmet need or undealt with situation.
Wow.
Yeah.
I lastly want to close on who Dr. Cheryl Holmes is. I gave you guys the credentials. I mean, if you want to give who you are and what you do, from your mouth, I went through the credentials, but if you want to, because this is,
Mm-hmm.
been a great session. It's always a great session. I've went to marriage retreats in Florida with Dr.
Mm-hmm.
Holmes. Telling you, I found out things about myself that, with my wife that, I just couldn't imagine. And again, I thank you for.
But
Mhm.
but it's really important to also say in therapy, you don't like me all the time.
I don't like you all the time. I
Exactly.
didn't like her the first session. I bawled. It looked like, because she says it before we start, you're not gonna like me. You may not like me. I'm not here to take sides. I'm not here to, just, I'm here to, like she said, I'm gonna meet you where you are. And what do you want to do as a marriage? Is it this? Is it that? And I've recommended about 3 friends to her, and the marriage retreat was excellent. We went with our friends, and I'm sure there's gonna be many more.
Yeah.
But yeah, just talk about some of the things
So
you do.
right now I'm doing a lot of work on divorce prevention.
Oh,
Um, we're doing once a month. The first Saturday in the month, I have a 2-hour session where
okay.
I'm doing some training, really going through with people who want to prevent divorce, people who are already separated, people who have already filed divorce. So we're working because the whole idea of irreconcilable differences is, and if you look at that, it says we have differences that cannot be reconciled,
Mm-hmm.
and that is not absolutely true. If it's domestic violence, yeah, but everything else is resolvable, and working through and helping people realize that pride, what should be there is I'm too proud, because a lot of times people are going through stuff. Their heart is saying, I love you, be quiet, don't say that word. The mind is just like going. So I'm doing a lot of work on divorce. Right now I'm on book number 7
Mm,
that I've written it, and I'm doing a lot of work. I get to go to different countries and different things to
mm-hmm.
talk about relationship. In Antigua and a few other countries, I'm talking specifically of the effect of the
Mm-hmm.
movement of the man from the family. When the man moves from the family, the education system, the legal system, the entire country is impacted. So it's better for the man to be home. The trajectory of the child's education shifts, not when the woman leaves, but when the man leaves. So I'm doing a lot. I'm a research junkie.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm looking at why are we good professionally, why are we good in sports and everything else, but we're not so good when it comes to relationship.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Holmes. I appreciate it. I'm going to write. I can't even say all her credentials, or with all her handles and credentials. I'm going to write it
Yes.
underneath the. But do you want to say anything to the
Yeah. So
audience?
I'm right now, I think I spend most of my time on TikTok.
Oh,
Everybody laughed with my
yeah.
TikTok.
I,
Yes.
ca- just a quick caveat. I'm sorry to cut you off. We actually get more views on TikTok than anywhere else, and people follow us. And
Yes.
I never knew about. I mean, I know from the kids, but
Yeah,
go ahead.
that's what I thought. I thought it was the kids. So I started in February, and I remember telling people, "Oh, I have 79 followers," and they like 79.
Mhm.
And then I started to talk about relationship and stuff. So right now, at so this was February. This is May.
Mhm.
I'm at 10,002, and
Wow.
yeah, with close to 200,000. What's that, likes or whatever?
Okay.
And so you go on there and to see 300,000 people who are saying my marriage is in trouble, my marriage is in trouble. So that's why we do the once a month, and I did
Mhm.
it last week, and we had 170 something people. It was supposed to be 2 hours, but after it was finished, I stayed on and answered questions,
Wow.
which took me about 5 hours to be able to do that. So TikTok has been Facebook, I'm there. Instagram, just hang out there a little bit. But the
Hmm.
work, every day I get up and create content for that.
Okay.
Patreon, I'm on
Oh, you're on
Patreon as
Patreon.
well.
Okay, I'm gonna put all the handles down on the
Yeah,
screen, for TikTok and everything, and I'm gonna, when I tag and link you on these videos, I cut these videos up. Everything will be there. I highly recommend. I'm sorry, I'm biased, but I highly recommend
yeah,
Dr. Holmes and her whole ecosystem of books, therapy sessions, and stuff I just learned about, divorce prevention, life strategy,
yeah.
sex therapy.
Sex therapy, yes, I do sex therapy. And I just started a clothing line. It's divorce prevention clothing line. So
Okay.
that it's something like the t-shirt has forgiveness saved my marriage
Okay.
and stuff like that. So we have that. We've been doing really well on Etsy and some of those other
Okay.
places
Oh, good.
as well. So we're advocating for fighting for our marriage. We have t-shirts that says I still do,
Hmm.
which is
Oh
part
yes,
of
yes, I have one.
the
Yeah,
retreat as well. Yeah.
yeah.
So it's about helping, and I really love what you guys are doing. I
Thank
would
you.
not be here if I did not
Yes, I know
believe
you are
in this.
very busy. You are a traveler, world traveler. I look up and I see you in South Africa the other day.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
I look up, she's in Florida. I look up, she's in the
Hmm.
Midwest. I look up here, and there, and I'm so glad. I have to give wife all the credit, because when we started, I said, all right, I didn't want to do therapy before we got married.
Yeah,
She said, all right, I'll look for someone who knows at least our culture, a black woman, something like that. I said, "Oh." She takes me out to your office. I'm like, oh, she's, first of all, I hear the accent. So I'm like, okay, she's just like my wife, West Indian. And she says, and you start talking and you give me that space. And I'm like, oh, this is not so bad. It's the first time I've done therapy. I did one session when my brother passed, but I didn't really like it. And I've had other therapists individually as a grown man. I did not like it at all. Oh my God. I felt so comfortable talking to you, and still do 5 years later.
hmm.
So
5 years
it's been
later, right? Because
5 years.
we did
Pre
pre-engagement. No,
pre no, it was
yeah,
right
pre
when after got
right,
engaged in
yeah.
2019.
So engagement,
Mm-hmm.
and then marriage and
Yeah, baby,
children and
yeah,
baby.
yeah.
One baby, soon to be two, then
Yeah.
10.
Yep, yep. So it's 10, 11, 12. Who knows? But
Yeah, no,
but
Khadijah's not gonna, no. Mm-mm.
she can't go nowhere, guys. No, nowhere. She's stuck with us. But I thank you, Dr. Holmes, for coming through and talking to us. You guys know to like, subscribe. You'll see all her information down there. We appreciate you. Black Girl Magic personified.
Thank you
And
so much.
thank you. You guys, see you.